Hey everyone! Welcome back to another episode of What Happened. Today we're talking about someone who made us laugh through some of our most treasured childhood memories, who became the voice of our favorite animated characters, and who experienced an incredible career renaissance that reminded us why we fell in love with her in the first place. On January 30th, 2026, the entertainment world lost Catherine O'Hara at the age of 71. The initial reports were simple. She had died following a brief illness. But as more details have emerged, we've learned there was so much more to this story. A private battle, a medical condition most people had never heard of, and a woman who continued working and bringing joy to others right up until the end. So, let's look back at what actually happened to Catherine O'Hara, and why her passing has left such a profound impact on everyone who knew her work. If you grew up in the 90s, Catherine O'Hara was probably one of the first actresses you ever knew by name, even if you didn't realize it. Picture this. You're 8 years old, watching Home Alone for the 100th time, and there's that frantic mother screaming, "Kevin!" as she realizes she's left her son behind. That scream, that panic, that perfectly comedic yet genuinely heartfelt performance, that was Catherine O'Hara as Kate McAllister. But here's what most people don't know. That iconic role was just one small piece of a career that spanned more than 5 decades and touched virtually every corner of the entertainment industry. Catherine Ann O'Hara was born in Toronto in 1954, the sixth of 7 children in an Irish Catholic family. From the very beginning, she had something special, a gift for making people laugh, but also an ability to find the humanity in every character she played, no matter how outrageous they might be. Her big break came in the 1970s when she joined Second City Television, better known as SCTV. This wasn't just any sketch comedy show. SCTV was where some of the greatest comedic minds of the era cut their teeth. We're talking about John Candy, Rick Moranis, Dave Thomas, and of course, Catherine's longtime collaborator, Eugene Levy. On SCTV, Catherine wasn't just performing. She was writing, creating characters, pushing boundaries. Her work was so good that in 1982, she won an Emmy for her writing contributions. Think about that. In 1982, women weren't winning Emmys for comedy writing very often, but Catherine's talent was undeniable. But it was what happened next that really launched her into the stratosphere. In 1988, a young director named Tim Burton was making a strange, dark comedy about ghosts trying to scare away the living family that had moved into their home. The movie was called Beetlejuice, and Catherine was cast as Delia Dietz, the eccentric, art-obsessed stepmother who turns the haunted house into her personal gallery space. Catherine made Delia unforgettable. She was pretentious, she was dramatic, she was absolutely hilarious. But here's the beautiful thing about Catherine's performance. Even when Delia was being completely ridiculous, you could see that Catherine understood this was a real person with real feelings. That's what made her special. She never played characters as caricatures. And it was on the set of Beetlejuice where something magical happened in Catherine's personal life. She met Beau Welch, the film's production designer. Their love story was like something out of a romantic comedy. He was too nervous to ask her out, so director Tim Burton had to play matchmaker. They married in 1992 and had 2 sons together, Matthew and Luke. But let's get back to 1990, because that's when Catherine became a household name worldwide. Home Alone was supposed to be a small family comedy, but it became a cultural phenomenon. Catherine's performance as Kate McAllister was the emotional heart of the film. Yes, she was funny, the way she frantically packed, the way she interrogated the family about Kevin, that devastating moment when she realizes what they've done. But she was also genuinely heartbreaking. You felt this mother's pain, her guilt, her desperate love for her child. The movie made over $476 million worldwide and spawned a sequel where Catherine reprised her role. But more importantly, it created a Christmas tradition. Every year, millions of families watch Home Alone together, and Catherine's performance is part of what makes those moments special. Throughout the 90s and 2000s, Catherine continued to work steadily. She became a frequent collaborator with Christopher Guest, appearing in his mockumentary films like Best in Show, A Mighty Wind, and Waiting for Guffman. These movies showcased Catherine's incredible improvisational skills. Guest would give his actors basic character outlines and let them create the rest. She also did voice work, becoming the singing voice of Sally in Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. Her rendition of Sally's song is hauntingly beautiful and showed a different side of her talent. But then something unexpected happened. In 2015, when Catherine was 61 years old, she got a call from her old SCTV colleague Eugene Levy. He and his son Daniel had created a show called Schitt's Creek about a wealthy family who loses everything and has to live in a small town they once bought as a joke. They wanted Catherine to play Moira Rose, the family matriarch. Catherine was hesitant at first. She'd been working steadily for decades, but taking on a television series is a huge commitment. Plus, working with Eugene again after all these years, would the magic still be there? The magic was definitely still there. Moira Rose became Catherine's masterpiece. This character was everything. Dramatic, pretentious, loving, vulnerable, absolutely hilarious. Catherine gave Moira an accent that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. She delivered lines like, "I'm incapable of faking sincerity," with such perfect timing that they became instant memes. But beneath all the wigs and the vocabulary and the dramatic gestures, Catherine made Moira a real person. You saw her love for her family, her insecurities about aging, her genuine talent as a performer. It was a performance that worked on multiple levels. It was broad enough for comedy, but subtle enough for genuine emotion. Schitt's Creek became a phenomenon, especially during the pandemic when people needed comfort viewing. The show swept the 2020 Emmys, winning in every major comedy category. Catherine won Outstanding Lead Actress in a Comedy Series, and her acceptance speech was pure Catherine, gracious, funny, and deeply grateful. "I will forever be grateful to Eugene and Daniel Levy," she said, "for the opportunity to play a woman of a certain age, my age, who gets to fully be herself." That speech was prophetic in ways she couldn't have known, because even as Catherine was experiencing this incredible career renaissance, something else was happening that the public knew nothing about. In March 2025, Catherine began treatment for rectal cancer. She kept this completely private. No public announcements, no updates during treatment. This was typical Catherine. She'd always been someone who let her work speak for itself. She continued working throughout 2025. She appeared in the second season of The Last of Us, playing a character that viewers still talk about. She had a major role in Apple TV's The Studio opposite Seth Rogen, a performance that earned her both Emmy and Golden Globe nominations. Her last public appearance was at the Emmy Awards in September 2025, where she was nominated twice. She looked radiant, laughing with her husband Beau, celebrating with her co-stars. Nobody in that room could have imagined what was happening behind the scenes. But there were signs, if you knew what to look for. Catherine didn't attend the Golden Globes in January 2026, even though she was nominated for The Studio. At the time, people assumed she was just tired or had scheduling conflicts. Now we know she was fighting for her life. Here's where the medical details become important to understand what happened. Catherine had rectal cancer, which is part of the colorectal cancer family. It's more common than people realize. About 30% of new colorectal cancer cases in the US are rectal cancer. The challenge with this type of cancer is that early symptoms can be subtle or mistaken for other conditions. But it wasn't the cancer itself that ultimately took Catherine's life. According to her death certificate, released on February 9th, Catherine died from a pulmonary embolism, a blood clot that traveled to her lungs and blocked an artery. Here's the connection that many people don't understand. Cancer significantly increases the risk of developing blood clots. When cancer spreads in the body, more clots can develop. Certain cancer treatments can also increase clotting risk. Add to that Catherine's age and the fact that she had been undergoing treatment, and the risk becomes even higher. Between 3 to 10% of cancer deaths are actually due to pulmonary embolism, not the cancer itself. It's a complication that can happen suddenly and, tragically, is often fatal. About 33% of people with pulmonary embolisms die before they can receive treatment. On the morning of January 30th, 2026, Catherine began experiencing symptoms at her home in Brentwood, Los Angeles. Emergency crews were called at 4:48 a.m., and she was rushed to a Santa Monica hospital in serious condition. Despite the efforts of medical professionals, she passed away that day. The news hit the entertainment world like a thunderbolt. Catherine had been so private about her illness that even many of her colleagues were shocked. The initial reports simply said she had died following a brief illness, which was technically true but didn't capture the full scope of what she had been quietly enduring. The tributes that poured in told the real story of who Catherine was. Macaulay Culkin, her on-screen son from Home Alone, wrote, "Mama, I thought we had time. I wanted more. I wanted to sit in a chair next to you. I heard you, but I had so much more to say. I love you. I'll see you later." Eugene Levy said, "Catherine O'Hara, a woman who was authentic and truthful in all she did. You saw it in her work. If you knew her, you saw it in her life." Daniel Levy wrote, "What a gift to have gotten to dance in the warm glow of Catherine O'Hara's brilliance for all those years. Having spent over 50 years collaborating with my dad, Catherine was extended family before she ever played my family." Pedro Pascal, who worked with her on The Last of Us, said, "Oh, genius to be near you, eternally grateful. There is less light in my world. This lucky world that had you will keep you always." These weren't just professional tributes. They were expressions of genuine love from people who had been touched by Catherine's kindness, professionalism, and humanity. But perhaps the most revealing detail about Catherine's character came from what we learned about her final months. Despite battling cancer, despite the treatments and the uncertainty, she kept working. She kept bringing joy to others. She kept showing up. The death certificate shows that her oncologist had been treating her since March 2025 and had last seen her on January 27th, just 3 days before she died. She was fighting right up until the end. There's also something medically fascinating about Catherine that adds another layer to her story. She had a condition called dextrocardia with situs inversus, which she had mentioned in interviews over the years. This is an extremely rare condition where the heart is positioned on the right side of the body instead of the left, and other organs are also reversed from their normal positions. The National Institutes of Health describes it as a mirror image of normal anatomy. Most people with this condition live completely normal lives, but it can sometimes complicate medical procedures and diagnoses. It's just another reminder of how unique Catherine was, literally from the inside out. What makes Catherine's death particularly poignant is how much she was still giving to the world. The studio, which premiered just months before her death, showed that at 71, she was still evolving as a performer. Her chemistry with Seth Rogen was undeniable, and critics praised her performance as sharp and nuanced. She was also scheduled to begin filming the second season of The Studio, which has now been indefinitely postponed out of respect for her passing. Catherine O'Hara's death reminds us how unpredictable life can be, and how much courage it takes to face serious illness while continuing to work and create. She could have announced her diagnosis, could have stepped back from public life, could have focused entirely on her treatment. Instead, she chose to keep giving performances that brought joy to millions of people. The entertainment industry has lost more than just a talented actress. It's lost someone who understood that comedy and humanity aren't opposites, but partners. Catherine never went for cheap laughs. She found the truth in every character she played, no matter how outrageous they might seem on the surface. From the frantic mother in Home Alone to the eccentric Moira Rose, from the voice of Sally in The Nightmare Before Christmas to the dozens of characters she created on SCTV, Catherine built a body of work that will outlive all of us. These performances will continue to make people laugh, cry, and feel less alone in the world. Her death also highlights the importance of cancer awareness and the reality that this disease affects people from all walks of life, often in ways that aren't immediately visible to the outside world. Catherine's decision to keep her battle private was her choice, but it also reminds us to be kind to everyone we encounter because we never know what battles they might be fighting. In the end, what happened to Catherine O'Hara was that she lived a life filled with laughter, love, and incredible artistic achievement. She made the world a brighter place through her work, and she faced her final challenge with the same grace and dignity that she brought to everything else. She leaves behind her husband, Beau, their 2 sons, Matthew and Luke, and millions of fans who will forever associate her with some of their happiest memories. Every time someone watches Home Alone during the holidays, every time Schitt's Creek provides comfort during difficult times, every time someone hears Sally's song from The Nightmare Before Christmas, Catherine will be there, still bringing joy, still making us laugh, still reminding us what it means to be fully, authentically human. That's what happened to Catherine O'Hara. She became immortal through the gift of laughter she gave to the world, and that's a pretty beautiful legacy to leave behind. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.